Okay, let's move on to NHL. A juicy win for the Avs. I'm not going to get pumped up yet. I doubled down after game one. Took the Avs to win the series at minus 125, and I need it. So, and I didn't take the Avs to win the series before because they were minus 250 favorites, which we said was ludicrous. But I still think they're the better hockey team. Let's talk Flyers, Islanders. This is fun. Game 6, baby. Game 6. And I was very hesitant to pull the trigger on the Flyers. You guys make fun of my hesitance. I should have last game. I didn't. I certainly didn't take the Islanders, but I was so afraid of fading the Islanders. Flyers pull it off in overtime. Let's see what we're dealing with right now. From a money line perspective, Islanders open up at minus 115. They're still there. Slight favorites. This total sitting at 5. Dennis Garcia says Tampa Bay is beating both these teams. William Pavlovsky says Islanders win, in my opinion. Ravi Patel says Flyers got it. Johnny K says Flyers have the momentum. Detroit, what? Going big on these Isles. And Slats 45, very, very, very important is what Slats saying. Barzal and Couturier, questionable. So let's talk about what happens if they are out. So that Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle line, we've talked about how good Lee and Eberle have been, but it's Barzal. He's the straw that stirs the drink. So if he's out, they bring in Otto Koivula. They move Pajot to play with Lee and Eberle. They also can use Brassard and Komarov in different ways. But this was not supposed to be Couturier's hockey team. This was supposed to be Giroux's hockey team. And I know Giroux has been silent for a lot of the playoffs, but he's moved back to center without Couturier, and I expect him to step up. Speak Your Mind Sports, thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you in the chat for NBA Talk. And Ravi Patel saying Delaware Park Sportsbook is open. Beautiful. So are Von Polo, because he's leaving, I guess, today to go hang out there. So Raffle, Bunneman, and Frost are the options. I expect it to be Raffle. I expect Giroux to move to center, but there's a lot of moving parts. One is the Flyers aren't scoring on their power play, and not having Couturier is not going to help. And the Islanders' power play numbers are going down, and Barzal missing is going to hurt. Take it away, Babano. You've been white hot in the NHL playoffs. Flyers, Islanders.
Yeah, give the Flyers credit. I mean, this is a good hockey team. They've had a good season. They've been awesome since the start of the year. January is when the hot streak started for them, where they came out from being out of the playoffs and got into the playoffs. And, you know, Carter Hart's been great. They've been really good defensively. Provorov is going to be a cornerstone defenseman for a very long time for the Flyers, no question. And Alain Vigneault called out Giroux and James Van Riemsdyk prior to Game 5 and said, we need more from you. And I know Giroux's one of those guys that does everything for you. Face-offs, penalty kill, everything. You know, it's not just that he gives you offense. He does the other things. But they needed his offense. That's what he was getting at. We need your offense because we know you've got the offense. We know you've got the goal-scoring production in you that we need at a time like this. And he stepped up, scored a goal, a key goal for the Philadelphia Flyers in Game 5. James Van Riemsdyk, who's been in Alain Vigneault's doghouse most of the last few months, he stepped up and scored a goal. So it worked, you know, calling out those guys. They played better. That being said, if you're Philadelphia, you had a 3-1 lead in that game in the third period, and here are the Islanders that make it 3-2, tie the game 3-3. You can't hold the lead, goes to overtime, and if not for 2, maybe even 3 at least, Carter Hart dazzling saves early in overtime, we're not even talking about a hockey game here tonight between these two teams. It would have been over. He was outstanding early in overtime. Next thing you know, Scott Laughton gets the deflection goal in overtime. You mentioned it, Jimmy. Their power play is still very bad, Philadelphia. And when I look at this series, I've watched every minute of it. I can tell you right now, the New York Islanders have had the better offensive depth. People still think this team can't score goals and that they're only defense-minded and they only can play these low-scoring games. That's not this Islanders team. Barzal hopefully plays. Lee, Beauvillier, Nelson, Eberle, Pajot. what an acquisition he's been from Ottawa. This team has depth, and their top players are showing up offensively way more consistently than the Flyers' top players in this series. Defense has been pretty good on both sides, but I love that Islander defense, with Leddy and company. Pulak is a good Pelech. I mean, these aren't household names, but they're so good, all of them. Devon Taves has really shown himself to be a really good defenseman as well. I like that Islander blue line. Varlamov's played good. Hart's played great too. I mean, defense and goaltending in this series has been pretty close. Slight edges to the Islanders in both, but it's the offense where the big edge has been toward the Islanders. I think the series is over tonight. I like the New York Islanders here, and we are seeing a pattern with the Islanders now. The last two series, the Florida series and the qualifying round, they failed in their first attempt to eliminate Florida in that series. But then they had the second attempt in Game 4, and they bounced back, and they played a complete dominant game to put away the Panthers. The Washington series in the first round, they stubbed their toe, the Islanders, their first attempt to eliminate the Washington Capitals, who stayed alive with a 3-2 win in Game 4. What happened in Game 5? The second attempt to knock out Washington, the Islanders got it done and shut out the Capitals. I think it was 3-0 or 4-0, I believe, in that game. And they played a great game. Here we go again. Second attempt to eliminate an opponent. And for the third straight series, I think the Islanders get it done on that second attempt to eliminate a series opponent. I like the Islanders here.
I agree. And I think the Couturier loss is much bigger than the Barzal loss. And Barzal might still play today. And I do not think Couturier with the knee injury plays. I agree. I wish I had pulled the trigger on the Flyers because it just felt like Vigneault was going to get them amped up and ready to go. Detroit, making such an important note with Konechny with 0 goals.
Yeah, he's been a huge disappointment. I mean, for him to now go, 5 games in this series, not a single goal, it's been a really big disappointment. They need more from him. He's a great player, a great goal scorer for them in the regular season. Even in the Montreal series, he chipped in a little bit. Absolutely nothing from him. That's got to change. That's got to change. Simple as that, because the Islanders are getting all these different forwards chipping in offensively for them. Flyers need that same kind of secondary production. Simple as that if they're going to extend this series.
And I'm going to pull the trigger on the -1 on the Islanders. I'm going to go for a score here. Allow overtime to give me the push.
That's never a bad option in an elimination game, because especially the team that's trying to eliminate the opponent, because the opponent's going to pull the goalie earlier when they're trailing late in the third period, and you could have all that time with the empty net if you need it to get that 2-goal margin. These are games where to get that extra value and get that bigger payout, sometimes it's worth that shot to go Islanders, say puck line -1, -1.5 here. I'm going to be more conservative, just stick with the money line, but I totally get why people would go for the bigger value in a spot like this.
Yeah, well put. Chris Hummerman says big X factor could be Lindblom stepping in. I don't mean to, throw water on that great thought, but he's not coming in. He's not coming into Game 6 of the playoffs here. Just him being in the dressing room is enough.
Yeah, for an emotional this guy hasn't played a hockey game in months. December. All right, December's the last time he played in an NHL game. And you're going to throw him in there in an elimination game when he hasn't participated in training camp on ice activities or scrimmages or any game situation for, going on, 9 months now? No, I can't see it. I just can't.
They're still laughing at me for saying dressing room. I will not be intimidated. When it's hockey, it's a dressing room.